A dead elephant lay in the dust of Savuti. The kill was fresh. Bite marks ran along the spine. More marks at the haunches, at the base of the neck. The trunk was still curled. The legs were splayed flat in the cracked earth. Flies had not yet found the wounds in any number. Tracks circled the body in every direction. Overlapping prints pressed into the soft ground around the carcass, crossing and recrossing each other, then trailing off into the grass on every side. An adult elephant stands close to 4 meters at the shoulder and weighs several tons. Something had put this one on the ground. Bite marks on the spine suggested the attacker went for the back first, the point where weight and grip could do the most damage. The wounds on the haunches showed where it held on while the elephant tried to shake it off. The tracks led fast to the answer. 100 meters out, a pride of lions lay in the grass, bellies swollen, blood dried on their faces. They had not gone far. Lions killed this elephant. Over the next 3 years, the same pride killed an estimated 74 of them. No lion population anywhere in Africa had done this before. Not at that number, not with that consistency. Subscribe if you want to know why lions started killing elephants on a massive scale. The most interesting part is yet to come. When field guides first saw lions feeding on an elephant carcass in Savuti, nobody assumed the lions had killed it. An elephant dying from lion predation had no precedent in the region. The working explanation was that the elephant had died from something else: age, injury, and the lions had found it already down. The bite marks ruled that out. Hyenas and lions leave different patterns on a carcass. Hyenas start at the soft tissue, belly, groin, where the skin gives easiest. Lions taking down large prey go for the spine first to immobilize the animal before it can fight back. The wounds on this carcass ran along the spine and the base of the neck. Those are not feeding marks left after the animal was already dead. They are the attack itself. At another carcass nearby, guides counted 21 hyenas against 5 lions. The hyenas circled for 2 days, testing the edges, pulling back, circling again. The 5 lions never gave up the perimeter. They rotated positions, fed in shifts, and held the same ground through both nights. A scavenger grabs what it can and moves within minutes. These lions held ground because the meat was theirs from the start. The bite marks had already proved that. In 1981, the Savuti Channel, which had been the lifeline of this ecosystem for decades, suddenly stopped flowing. The water simply vanished. Geologists studying the area pointed to tectonic movement underground, a shift in the rock that redirected the flow elsewhere. No drought, no failed rains. The water simply stopped arriving, the way it does when a pipe is cut off upstream. Within months, the marsh turned to cracked clay. Trees that had stood along the bank for decades died where they stood, bare trunks rising out of dust that used to be riverbed, roots locked into ground that no longer held moisture. The Wildlife Service kept a handful of pumped water holes running on boreholes. Zebra numbers at the bank dropped season after season. Buffalo herds passing through grew thinner each year, smaller groups with longer gaps between sightings. The lions stayed along the dry channel bed and kept growing in number anyway. 20 cats, then 30, then more, ribs showing through their coats, eyes tracking a horizon, with nothing moving on it for hours at a stretch. In the early 1990s, a male named Ntwadumela held that territory. He charged bull elephants to establish dominance over ground, running straight at animals many times his weight until they backed off and gave him the space he wanted, a tactic guides at the time considered reckless, even for a male defending territory. He fought hyena clans at the waterholes every night for years, scattering packs twice his pride's size on speed and aggression alone, sometimes returning with fresh wounds across his shoulders and flank. Filmmakers Derek and Beverly Joubert spent 270 days in the field without seeing another person. filming him by candlelight and night vision lens from a parked truck. A candle on the dashboard, an open notebook beside it, a lion roaring close enough outside to feel through the metal of the truck. Nobody inside moved. Younger males eventually pushed into Ntwadamela's territory. He could not hold the ground he had spent years defending. He walked north alone, crossed from the protected reserve into a hunting concession, and in 1991, trophy hunters shot him on that boundary. The pride he left behind kept growing in the same emptying landscape, without the male who had held its territory by force for most of a decade. Then an old bull elephant went down near a waterhole and could not get back up. No wound, just exhaustion, age. He was still breathing when the lions reached him. They started eating while he was still alive. He could not get up to stop them. Researcher Lee Kemp, who documented the carcass, noted that a downed elephant has no way to bring its tusks or trunk to bear on something attacking from behind or above. The trunk reaches the wrong direction. The legs push against ground that no longer holds. The size that protects the animal standing becomes useless lying down. Within a few seasons, the pride applied that observation to elephants that were still standing. At night, the herd's eyesight works against it. Elephants hear far better in darkness than they see, picking up sound long before they can place where it comes from. The lions roared from several positions at once, spaced out across the dark so the herd could not locate a single source of the sound. The herd bolted away from the noise in a tight group, calves pressed close to the adults. One animal, younger, weaker, separated from the adults in the scramble, fell behind the rest. Lionesses climbed onto its back from the dark, claws and weight on the spine, while the elephant spun and twisted, trying to throw them off. Ears flared wide in the direction of each new sound. A lion on the back keeps the elephant's tusks and trunk out of play entirely. Neither can reach an attacker riding above the shoulders. Other lions went for the hamstrings, the tendons at the back of the legs, cutting mobility one bite at a time, until the animal could no longer outrun the pride, even if it broke free. A single adult lion can weigh close to 200 kilograms, sprint at 80 kilometers an hour over short distances, and crush bone with one bite. 30 of them, attacking in rotation, taking turns at the back and the legs, never letting the target rest for more than a few seconds, can exhaust an animal 20 times the weight of any one attacker until its legs give out underneath it. Males hunted alongside the females here, which field reports flagged as unusual. Normally, males let the females handle large prey and step in only to feed afterward. An elephant required every cat the pride had, taking shifts through the night until the animal went down. Over the next 3 peak years, by most counts, the toll reached an estimated 74 elephants. In 2008, water moved down the Savuti Channel for the first time in nearly 30 years. The bed simply began to fill, brown water first, then clear, moving down a course that had carried nothing but wind and dust for almost 3 decades. Within weeks, green came back along banks that had been bare clay for a generation, grass pushing up through cracks that had held no moisture since most of the pride's current cubs were born. Elephants stopped bunching up at the few waterholes where the pride had hunted them at night. They spread out across a landscape with water everywhere again, drinking unhurried at dozens of points along the bank, instead of crowding into the handful of artificial holes that had funneled them into reach. A field report from a nearby safari lodge had logged more than 40 lions visible at one waterhole, resting in the open in full daylight, close enough together that guides could photograph most of the pride in a single frame. Weeks after the channel refilled, the same waterhole held 3. 40 lions, then 3. The same patch of ground, a few weeks apart. The hunting routine the pride had built over decades had nothing left to aim at. The herds it depended on were no longer funneled into a handful of kill zones, where roaring from multiple directions could trap them against open water. 5 males came out of the bush soon after. The resident males, spread thin across ground shaped for conditions that no longer applied, could not push them back. Fights broke out at dawn. Dust, manes, the impact of bodies colliding at speed, claws raking across shoulders and flanks. Cubs died in the grass during the takeover. Females scattered in 2 directions, carrying surviving cubs in their teeth, some south, some north, putting distance between themselves and the males who had just torn through the territory. Walter Smith, operations director at Desert and Delta, tracked the same waterhole going from over 40 lions to 2 fractured groups within the span of the invasion. One group became the Marsh Pride. The other became the Northern Pride. A single mega pride of 30 to 40 cats had become 2 smaller, separate territories holding less ground each, neither one large enough to mount the kind of hunt that had defined the original pride. The drought had built this pride out of starvation over 3 decades. The water removed the conditions that had held it together within a single season. 5 males finished the rest within weeks of arriving. 11 years later, in 2019, photographer M. Gatland was photographing the Marsh Pride's current females near camp when 2 lionesses started playing in the evening light, the sun low enough to turn the dry grass amber around them. One pinned the other, forepaws wrapped around the neck. Weight drove forward onto the spine, held for several seconds before either lioness broke the position and reset to do it again, 3 or 4 times in a row. Camp Savuti guides who had watched this pride for years told Gatland the play looked rougher and more deliberate than anything they saw in neighboring prides. The same grip, the same point of contact on the neck and spine, repeated several times over the course of the encounter with no elephant anywhere near them. These lionesses had never killed an elephant. Their grandmothers had. Whether that grip is learned behavior within the pride or just ordinary rough play has not been settled. In 2023, 6 males entered Savuti from the south. Guides named them the Angry Boys. The Channel Pride, 16 lions, including 5 adult females and new cubs, scattered the way the Mega Pride had scattered 15 years earlier. Most cubs from a neighboring pride did not survive the takeover. The resident males lost ground they had held for years, pushed out the same way Ntwadamela had been pushed out decades before them. As of 2024, the current prides are hiding cubs in the reeds near the channel, moving them at night between patches of cover and changing locations every few days. The channel is flowing right now, the same channel that dried without warning in 1981 and stayed dry for almost 30 years before it filled again in 2008. The daughters of the Marsh Pride still practice the neck grip and the spine mount in play, in front of cubs who watch every repetition of it from a few meters away, ears up, completely still. A female from the Marsh Pride stood at the channel's edge one evening, watching south toward the territory the Angry Boys hold now. Ears forward, weight balanced on all 4 paws, she held that position for several seconds, scanning the tree line before any movement showed there. Then she turned and walked into the grass. If the water stops again, the prey will concentrate at the same handful of waterholes it always has, the way it did in 1981. The cubs watching their mothers practice that grip right now will be grown by then, with their own cubs watching in turn, in the same stretch of reeds along the same channel. So tell us in the comments, do you think today's cubs are watching a hunting technique that began with those elephant kills? Or is this just ordinary lion play?